Good morning, everyone. It's 7 o'clock on this beautiful Tuesday morning, and I wanted to open up the CCPA Commercial Inspectors Roundtable. Welcome, everybody.
Morning, Rob.
Let's uh, let's just jump right into it. Anybody have anything they wanna share or want to ask the group a question?
Yeah, Rob,
I guess I'll go.
Oh,
Go ahead. Sorry.
okay. Just came across something that I don't know if anybody's heard of concerning insurance inspections. And there's an organization called VITA, VIITA. And they do commercial lines class and a personal lines class. So basically residential and commercial buildings. Mostly it looks like it's focused on fire hazard. Don't know if anybody's heard of it or done anything like that.
In a hush. I am.
I guess answer the question.
I have not, Larry. We talked previously about some of the state farm things going on, but you said it's VITA, VITA.
VII, two I's, TA.
Okay.
I think it's a virtual insurance inspection training academy or something to that effect.
Okay. Well,
We
I
had-
promise I'll do some research on it.
We had two recent inspections for a commercial where their current carrier was dropping them because they owned a building older than a certain age. And their new carrier wanted basically a 4-point inspection done on it. And so we were able to farm that out. And it was nice. We did 2 of them in the last month or so.
Okay. And you said 4-point. What is the 4 points that they're looking for?
It was like structure, HVAC, mechanicals, and then like the electrical panel.
Okay, very basic stuff. Yeah,
Very, very basic. Yep.
gotcha.
That's
Which
very-
carrier? Oh, I'm sorry. Which carrier is that for? Do you recall?
I think the new carrier, I believe, was State Farm. The old carrier was Liberty Mutual.
Okay.
State Farm's requiring inspections on any building over 30 years old.
Yeah. I think that's where we got both of those from.
Yeah,
And that's why I was going to start pursuing that because I thought that's an open field right now for inspections.
yeah, and the nice thing about them is they're parceled out by the individual brokers. So this actually gives you a leg, in your neighborhood, to do some marketing.
Larry, we in California here, we've had a couple of requests. We've done, I think, 2 of those. Essentially called it a commercial 4-point, similar to the residential. Just created a new template off of our residential template and went out and did it. And there's a few line items that are a little bit different or what they're looking for. Obviously some of the fire protection stuff, but what I found, I'll have to dig in a little bit more, is that there seems to be a new thing, at least in California. There doesn't seem to be much guidelines and standards, and the few clients that I talked to about it were kind of in the same boat where they weren't clear as to what they were even needing and standards on it. So we just put our best together and sent it out. So only 2 of them, and I didn't hear anything back.
Cool.
So I assumed that was what they needed.
Yeah, the last person I talked to on that, Jamie, said that they had some stuff in there about some basic accessibility as well. Like if there was a 3-step down garden apartment, or if the laundry was a couple of steps down, they wanted to know that because that building's not completely accessible.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't catch that part. On the insurance topic as a whole, things are changing big time. I know Florida and California have a lot of issues, and we've had a handful of past clients just on a regular commercial inspection reach out about having trouble getting an insurance policy. An example is multifamily apartment complex we did recently, and just having aluminum wiring. It was a 70s building, and that alone, the client had called, endless companies and couldn't get someone to write a policy. And the one company out of this long list that was willing to write a policy, it was a very, very high premium to insure the building. So that prompted them having some questions and looking for an electrician to see about getting rid of the aluminum. But anyway, stuff like that is similar to the 4-point in residential. That's what the insurance companies are looking for. There's big red flags like that, and jack up their premium.
Yeah, I think the next little bit of time, given what happened in California, I think the insurance companies are going to be in great upheaval, and
But the
they're
yeah,
not supposed to be able to spread the load state to state, but I think they're going to be trying to. Good question. Thank you. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up?
Doc?
Yes. Quiet this morning. We're getting together next week in Florida, and I was asked what, as part of the roundtable we're doing live, we're celebrating 5 years of the CCPIA, and one of the things we want to celebrate is some of the huge successes that many of you had. So if there's something that was monstrous or huge or you're immensely proud of and you want to you want that shared, please send me a note or give me a call later this afternoon. We can talk about it, because I know our executive director Maggie wants to make sure she highlights some of our members that have really done some fantastic things over the last 5 years. If you don't have my number, I'll put it in the chat for everybody. But does anybody else have anything?
yeah, Rob, I'll send you something on that.
Perfect. Thank you.
We'll see you on Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, so Rob, as a new CCPIA guy, just trying to build up the business. I actually got 2 triplexes together, and now I got two commercial agents that specifically are starting to call me like, we didn't have anybody. Thank you so much. And so as new here in Northwest Atlanta, I can see the tide's starting to shift, and commercial people are starting to look at that kind of stuff. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it goes back to that old day of you got to plant the seeds, and every
Yeah.
good inspection, every inspection you go out and just do with confidence and pride and care about what you do
Yeah.
is gonna let the world know that that you're out there, and commercial inspections are a good thing. And yeah, I don't think we can take anything for granted these days, because it's it's a tough market out there.
So, and with that, the selling agent was there. That all he does is commercial. And I got his card and I sent him a video message with all my contact information. And he goes all over Northwest Atlanta. I'm like, he goes, I got a guy now. I don't have to search. But yeah, get his card. I sent him a video message thanking him for letting me go out there at his property that he was selling, just to get your name out there as much as you can.
That's outstanding, because I'm just scrolling through the latest quarterly report from the CBRE, and they're talking about a lot of vacancies out there. So what, whether or not, now that we've gone through the election process and now we've got the administration all settled in, if some of our investors are going to come out of the woodwork now, that weren't ready to invest, last third and fourth quarter, might be ready now. So it's kind of exciting.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm in northern Michigan, and I just became certified about 2 weeks ago. And just like Dave said, I actually am literally the only one up there in northern Michigan, and they're waiting on winter to be pretty much done, and then I'm going to be busy. They said pretty much.
Well, busy. What kind of buildings?
Mostly, they got a lot of churches and office spaces, and over in Traverse City, there's a couple commercial, like big warehouse ones that they said they are going to keep me busy doing.
Good, good.
What part of northern Michigan?
Up by Rogers City, Traverse City, pretty much I cover the whole north,
Yeah.
east, and west. There's nobody else up here.
And I'm from Bay City, but I spent all my youth up in there. So congrats. You got
Thank you.
8 more weeks of winter, so you got a ways.
Oh yeah.
Anybody else?
I'll throw out a couple of
Yeah,
quick ones.
Please.
I guess the first one, I'm curious if I think I may have heard this on one of these roundtables. Curious if anyone has experience with Blue 222, and it's sort of a referral network for. It seems like mostly phase one environmental site assessments, but it appears they do PCAs as well. Recently got set up on their dashboard and looking at some jobs to bid on, but I'm curious if anyone on the call has worked with them or got any jobs out of it.
So
What is that name again?
is-
Blue 222.
So that's a new offshoot of the Blue Book, I believe. Jamie.
Okay. So I'm seeing that.
I do. Yeah.
Oh, Larry, you have?
I've worked with them. Yeah. I just did a couple projects. It seems like when they post something, it's gone within seconds. So
Yeah. I'm realizing I got to look at it all the time to get in
Yeah.
on it.
So I've only done a couple small jobs with them. And I think they're part of Cretelligent, which is a bigger due diligence firm, but I think they're integrated now. And I've had a good experience with them. It's just like I said, it's just been, few and far between.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I just kind of noticed, I haven't dug too far into it, but it seems as though they're phase one stuff bidding on it, that seems as though they're more needing someone in the field to go, do the photos and documentation, and they handle the document research on their own. So in the beginning, I was looking at their suggested bid number, the dollar amount. Thought,
Yeah.
wow, how could I possibly do that? I got to pay EnviroSite $650, and they, anyway. So working on just creating a fresh proposal that's for phase one only to submit to Blue 222. So is that what you did, Larry?
Yeah, so I
submitted.
think for them, I just did some photo shoots at a couple
Yeah.
sites.
Okay.
And it was easy money because it wasn't far from home, and I could just go out there, shoot pictures. I'm back within an hour or 2 hours.
Okay,
it was worth it for that. But if it came down to a full PCA, then it'd have to like triple whatever they're offering.
Yeah. Okay. I did notice across the country there are a lot of active jobs out there to bid on. It's just spread through the whole country. So anyway, something to look at and working towards.
And
The
it
other
costs
one,
nothing, guys, to get on there and just set up your account. So you might as well keep an eye out there. Maybe something in your area pops up.
Yeah, that's for sure.
another one, I think Rob, I've probably brought this up in the past. I'm sure I've asked you about it, but something I was just thinking on, more of an admin side of things of running the commercial businesses in regards to your proposals, having your inspection agreement within it versus having it as a separate document that's sent separately. I had initially, in the last couple of years, not had the inspection agreement, or at least not the full content of it, in the proposal, because I was thinking in terms of, hey, at that point in that moment with the client, doing the interview, sending them a proposal, doing a follow-up on the proposal, I wanted to focus more on closing the deal and selling them and all that. And unfortunately, in California, our inspection agreements are quite long, and there's a lot in there, and there's a lot of, you know, I don't know, could be perceived as negative. So I had gone on with, you know, once we sold the job and the proposal signed, you know, they get another email to sign the inspection agreement. Just as an administrative nuisance, it's like, oh, I already signed the proposal, and dragging feet on signing the agreement. Anyway, I'm considering combining it now and putting it all in there to save a step. I'm just curious, thoughts on that, and if I'm overthinking the not having all the legalese and negative stuff when you're trying to sell them. Because there is quite a bit of, you know, we don't do this, we don't do that. You know, hey, if you sue us, this, it's kind of putting that in front of them before they've gotten into business with you is interesting. So,
Well, it's
just curious.
interesting because I did that for years, and I just always thought, since my proposal's being read by the decision maker, that if I had it all clear and abundantly visible right to them instantly, and they sign it, then I wouldn't have to worry about, okay, did I get my agreement perfectly signed later on by the decision maker or the subordinate. Now it's interesting you say that, Jamie. Because I've been on the road for a month, and we were just together yesterday as a team, and I just saw the language from our legal counsel that that should be included whenever the proposal and the agreement are in the same document. So I would imagine we're going to be releasing that very, very soon. I mean, I'm talking about days soon
Okay.
in an article, because I saw the mock-up of it yesterday, and I think regardless of if you use the CCPIA proposal and the CCPIA agreement or your own modifications, I would imagine that the legal language that is surrounding the two documents in the tie-ins would be beneficial to everybody. So look for that, Jamie.
Okay.
You know, very, very soon. This week, if not while we're in Orlando.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
No problem.
Just thinking too, Rob, I mean, obviously there's different versions of agreements, and some things
Yeah.
don't need to be said. For example, you know, if you were, say, sending out just a standalone phase one, there's a whole lot that doesn't need to be said. And not to go into the weeds about it, but you know, if you try to cover everything in one agreement, it's quite long, and some of that stuff might not apply.
Right.
Just a tiny example, if you're doing a hotel that has a pool, you know, all this stuff about the referencing the pool in the agreement, you know, you wouldn't
Yep.
need that 99% of your proposal. Anyway, it's stuff like that. So,
Oh yeah, and so the biggest thing, I think the biggest takeaway is going to be for everybody will be some of I'll call it the punctuation language. It's the bridge language. It's the language that's bridging your proposal with your agreement, either between the two or at the end of it. That I think is going to be the most important stuff for everybody, and not necessarily the language in the agreement or the language in the proposal, which might not be as static. So I think this will help a lot. I saw it yesterday. I don't have a copy of it in front of me.
okay.
But I did see it yesterday, and I was pretty excited because it was our legal counsel that reviewed it and made sure that it was on the up and up.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem. Anything else? It's a quiet Tuesday. It's cold here in Colorado, so
So I got a question, or maybe I'm seeking some guidance, maybe. So,
yes.
in my infinite wisdom, I got caught between a builder and a homeowner, and so I have to go do a deposition. Kind of curious who's had that opportunity and maybe what to say, what not to say, what any type of ramifications came from your experience.
So I've done a lot of them. Including some that have lasted multiple days. your key is you want to make sure you talk to your counsel before you go in the room. Whoever's giving you advice, because they're going to tell you how they want their answers given. Because the advice I've always been given is you only answer the question being asked of you, and don't provide any other words that are completely unnecessary or would lead to somebody else's second question. So what color is the sky today?
Whoa.
Blue or gray or red or yellow, and leave it at that. Going, well, I believe there's a cold front coming in, and that cold front's going to lead to some increased clouds, which will block my sky. That's probably not the answer there. That's going to be the most important. That'll either help your client, hurt your client, protect you, etc. So Brian, do yourself the monster favor and talk to whomever is the advocate for your side, because
Well,
that's
in this case,
you.
I'm simply the witness.
Oh,
Because
I'm sorry, Tracy.
it's the homeowner suing the builder. I went and did the inspection, and so they want me to come in, and I'm assuming want to ask me questions about the report. So I'm not being sued, fortunately. So I'm
Okay.
just kind of probably a witness for one side or the other, and I'm not exactly sure because I don't remember who asked me to come.
And you're probably only going to get paid $35.
I ain't getting paid squat.
Ah,
Really? No,
you
We-
need to
we-
get a new agreement.
we've gotten away with
Yeah.
250,
I
250
actually
an
didn't
hour
even
on that.
think about that. I didn't think about that at all, actually.
Yeah. You need to add a line item in your agreement somewhere that says any use of this report for any other means other than the standard inspection, and these services is subject to renegotiations and an additional fee, including any depositional work.
Now you tell me.
Yeah, I thought I did. I thought when we were together in Nashville, I might have said something like that, but who knows?
Well, I'm
We all
definitely going to add that in mine.
So yeah, I think I think the matter still stays the same. So if you're if your depositional work on an inspection report, then have the inspection report with you, and
Just, uh,
and only refer to whatever you put in the report, and not any memory. And don't ever say I don't remember. The words are I don't recall.
Okay.
That would be the best advice a non-legal, never gone to a school attorney would give you, because I'm none of those. But yeah, I just know from doing past, I only want to describe what I have in the report and the photos I took, and not any conjecture or anything I left out of the report. Because what if you left something out of the report and your memory spurs you? Now you've got some either egg on your face or some explaining you need to do. So stick to the facts that are in front of you.
Thanks.
Tracy, I've been in quite a few of them over the years, and I found it helpful to I don't know if you're InterNACHI or not on home
I am.
inspections on the standard, but I found it helpful to literally print out the SOP and review it yourself. You know, maybe as you're heading down there, or you're sitting waiting for the whole thing to start, just so it's fresh in memory, and you're able to recite different things in the standard. And I suppose being an expert witness is a little bit different than someone suing you, but another aspect of that is always referring back to that standard and sticking to that. I found in courtroom in a couple of cases that really helped and went a long way, just to stick to that, or to be able to recite components of it. But again, I guess if you're an expert witness, it's a different thing. I've been in some of these on the expert witness side, where they tend to get into standard of care rather than the standard of practice, meaning that sometimes when they bring in an expert witness and they're trying to pin someone else down, this would be more if a home inspector was being sued and you're being brought in as an expert witness. And the other side is, hey, would it be common for you to have written this up, or would it have been normal in your experience as a home inspector to have found this? And they kind of skirt away from the standard of practice by asking, an expert witness home inspector, if you would write this thing up, although it may not be in the standard of practice. And they do try to pin down some home inspectors, but it doesn't sound like in this case a home inspector is being sued.
Right.
So
Yeah, and Tracy, take a look at Burke's comment that he had in the chat. I think it's a really good comment. I've always been told to say that what I know is 100% true, and don't speculate or assume anything. And that's exactly what was told to me the last deposition I was in. Don't. I guess so. It's whatever you wrote is 100% true to you. And that's really good advice. Good luck. Have fun. Anything else, team?
No.
Quiet.
So, hey, Rob, can I steal some advice from everybody on the thing?
Absolutely.
So the triplexes I did this weekend, they actually had people in the units, and it was a pain in the ass to me. The way I handled it is I just went into each unit and just took pictures. And I would take a picture of the outside of the door so I knew what unit I was in, took all my pictures of the inside, and then of basically all six of them. And then I went back and did the report at the house. Would anybody have done anything different in that scenario?
I would not have. In fact, in the session I'm teaching or presenting in Orlando, that's exactly how I'm going to talk about it.
Okay.
I try not to be in a unit more than 7 to 15 minutes max, because there's always somebody present. They're rarely pleasant.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're even disgruntled tenants that hate their landlords, and I don't want to be in the middle of that situation. So I am literally a camera happy tourist snapping way too many photos that I need to have so that I don't have to go back to my office and think about things. It's abstracts, it's quick shots, and I'm out of there. My bigger problem is dealing with residents that are still laying in their beds.
Yeah.
And it's amazing in Chicago how many people at 2:00 in the afternoon are still in their bed, but that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
And so I won't even put myself in that position, Van. I won't even go in the room. If there's a child, if there's a resident, a tenant in a room, I don't even go in it. I'll just write on my report, 1B, tenant in bedroom 2, not entered. Done.
And I basically, I took pictures of all the mechanicals, any ceiling stains I spotted, and in my report, I basically put every unit has general damage to every wall, and just left it a blank at that to cover my ass.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and for most on the call, I know you're in Georgia, which is one of the 12 states that does not have any regulation. But if you were in one of the other states that does, I mean, that's still a residential inspection, a triplex.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would fall under the residential licensure in most of the states. It's usually not until it's a 4 or a 5 unit building is it a true commercial building, even though we can all argue against that. But no, I think what you did is absolutely probably the smartest move. I think in dealing with a triplex, a quad, a 5, a multifamily like that, I think the majority of your time is going to be spent in common areas, the roof, the common mechanical rooms, the laundry room, the hallways, and the exterior, and not necessarily in the individual units.
Okay.
Hey, David, can you all see me?
Yeah.
Hear me? Okay. We do a lot of multifamily, commercial and residential, and I just want to add to that. One other really important thing is, you'll often have tenants and employees as well, trying to ask, what are you here for? What's going on? So you have to have a plan in place ahead of time for that. So we always say we're just here to do a routine safety inspection for you. We're not giving them any indication that there's a transaction taking place, the property's being sold, that they might have a new landlord, or a new owner and boss if it's commercial. We recently did a concrete batching facility, a plant, and it was small. They had, I think it was 8 employees, and it was an acquisition. So the current owner and the buyer both told us ahead of time, hey, we're worried about what they might ask. Can you just tell them it's an insurance inspection or an appraisal or something like that? And I said, we don't like to give them misinformation about what we're doing, but we'll just let them know we're doing just a standard routine safety inspection. And they both went, oh, great. Okay, that's even better. Perfect. So, and then let your client know, hey, we're used to this. We come across this all the time. We know exactly how to handle it. Set them at ease, because, without that, they feel the need to let you know what to say. And, you want to let them know, hey, we've got this. We do this all the time. So that's a tip I just wanted to share.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Fortunately for me, I had the seller, the seller's agent, the buyer, the buyer's agent, and an HVAC guy there. So I didn't have to say a word. They already all knew.
Well,
I like that.
Yep, there you go.
That's perfect. And we'll we'll often have that conversation with all the parties involved before we go out for the inspection, PCA, whatever we're doing.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Yeah.
And nothing's more enjoyable than having a crowd follow you around.
Yeah, and for me, it was kind of awkward because the buyer's there, and I'm like, look, I'm just doing this because the agent, the people are in the unit, and he's like, you're spending like 5, 7, 10 minutes in each unit. I'm like, I know. All I'm doing is snapping pictures, and I'm gonna put it all on the report afterwards, and it'll take me 4 hours to put all this to paper. So you're not gonna have to worry about it. And he finally understood what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's nice is on that van is you probably just met a new ally.
Yeah, I did.
Because they're going to see the quality of your output is not necessarily a direct correlation to the speed of your data collection.
Yeah.
And I have found through because still 60% of our work was always multifamily, and our investors, they welcome the fact that we were only in the apartments for 5 to 7 minutes. That's what they wanted, because they wanted to get in, get out, see them, and leave, because they couldn't see them during the showings.
Yeah.
And that's exactly all they wanted.
I love the way you word that, and that's so good to put. Look, the speed of my report is vastly different than the speed of my data collection.
Yeah. The quality of your report.
Yeah, the quality of my report is vastly different than the speed of my data collection. That's great.
Yeah, I don't know if you recall in the live class, but we did 115 apartments in a day and a half, because we were only in them for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But there was 3 inspectors simultaneously, so that's 15 minutes an apartment. That's quick, but the data that we collected was exactly what the client needed on all the different systems in each of the apartments. Terrific. Thank you.
A caveat to all that, of course, is going to be connected into what software you're using. Happens to be that, say, for example, and this kind of ties into running a multi-inspector firm and having a lot of inspectors, is that So if you're using something like Spectora, their design of the software from the beginning was driven by an app on a phone and collecting the data and the information as you're going. So for example, when you're taking a photo of something, it's oftentimes connected to a statement, a deep, a comment, right? And it takes quite a bit longer to do that. But in that software, this is kind of a problem managing the company on a back end. If say on an inspection, you do what we call a snap and go, which is go in, take a bunch of photos and build it later. I find that my inspectors take far longer with that software
Yes.
to assemble it all back at home on their computer because the software itself is not designed to do it that way. So in other words, it takes twice as long to do a snap and go, and the report writing time takes twice as long to do it that way. So I guess the consideration there is what software you're using or how you're writing it up. Some people use kind of a word style narrative. Others use different software. So in the previous software we were using years back, it was a little better suited for this quote unquote snap and go. But now the one that we're using today is better suited to collect on site. So there might be more hours involved actually doing it that way. Just a consideration maybe when pricing it and putting out the proposal and deciding how many people. I've also found that there can be a more of a quality control issue for our inspectors if they've gone to a property and done a snap and go style and wrote it up later. So it's, I guess it's worth spending a little bit more time in the beginning when you're scheduling the inspection with the client to really drive home the point that you wouldn't think you'd have to tell them all this, but like, hey, look, we need to give all of the tenants a 72-hour notice. We've even given out via email the notice to written by us to put on the door and to go hand to them, and requesting like, hey, is there a property manager type person, a building manager type person, the seller, listing agent, whatever, that can be present. It's best to go out ahead of time and make sure that the keys work in the different doors. Because, in addition to having someone sleeping in a bedroom, oftentimes when you go to these larger apartments, there's units we can't get in because no one went and checked that all the keys work until that day. So you go, say, do an 18 unit and two of them, literally, they can't get in the door. The tenant's not there. So I think that ahead of time, days or a week before it's actually going to happen, of driving that home with them, that we really need to make sure we're going to have access to all the units, that the keys work, that they're getting notified 72 hours ahead of time, and expect to have us in the unit 30 minutes is kind of what we tell them. Yeah.
It's funny, the report writing part of it. And you're right. It takes a lot longer, but I actually share my photos from my phone that I took to my iPad. So I have all the photos pulled up on my iPad. I have my desktop with the report that they see, and then I have the report editable on my phone. So I literally would go through the pictures on my iPad. I'm like, all right, I'm choosing all these pictures, and I could go to the spot on my phone, just change them all, put them all. So I knew exactly where to put everything to make it a little quicker, but it does take longer.
Yeah.
And I use Spector as well.
I think some of this is just kind of breaking the home inspector mindset too, for us anyway, thinking about all this stuff, because in training the home inspectors, I'm always too like, with this software and the way we do it, we try to get on the home inspection side, pretty much that thing is done. That report is done on site. And one of the things I always tell the guys and gals is like, once you get in the car and leave the property, you're likely not going back. And if you forgot to do something, or you're sitting down writing the report, oh crap, I need to go back and revisit this or that, you're not getting back in there. So it might not be the right way, but I prefer to spend a little bit more time in each unit, because we're not going back. We're not going back if there's a photo we didn't get, or an item we didn't check, or we needed to get clarity on something. So again, I think that the really driving home with the client, all the agents involved, any property managers, that look, we need to make sure they're all accessible and all the tenants know we're coming and that we might be in each unit 30 minutes. Yeah.
And one quick thing about that wrap up, Jamie and David, a few years ago, we and this was actually born out of one time we had an issue with a residential inspection. An appraiser had been there after us and must have been new or something, or just completely careless. They left the key in the door, lockbox wide open, all the lights on. I mean, everything on and unsecured. But there wasn't a super, like an electronic box. So the realtor goes, "Hey, we had you guys in there as the last people we know were there." So they're thinking that we did this, despite the fact that this particular listing agent we'd worked with hundreds of times and had never had an issue. So I started adding in to our residential reports and then eventually our commercial, a final checklist section. It's the very last section of the report. And, we'll say, at every inspection, we, to the best of our ability, we endeavor to ensure that everything is set back as it originally was upon arrival, and that, keys are returned to lockboxes are closed and scrambled if necessary, and, et cetera. And then we sign it, and then we have the client or whoever's there witness that. So they sign on our phone and their signature shows up in the agreement. So all that's on there. And since we've done that, we've never had an issue. We also put pictures on. So if we have a lockbox, we'll put, like the holder or the box itself with the key or keys in it. We'll snap that photo. And then it's just two photos. The next picture is the lockbox closed up, and if it's a coded box with the code scrambled, so that they see that we did that, we have proof of it. And it works too on the commercial side. Of course, with a lot of commercial, we're there during the day, business hours. We leave, they're still open, so we can't get that. But we'll also note, who granted access, if it was the person we, or persons we interviewed, and so forth.
I'll do
Well,
that too. I make a 30-second video, me locking the door, and I'll just add it to my report. Where I just lock the door, put it in the lockbox, and I with Spectora 30-second video, lock it up, and then I'm done. So it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good way to timestamp your departure.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say about the apartments, I just did one here at University of North Carolina, and I thought the students would be gone, but some of the ones we went in, luckily we had a representative of the housing unit going through the door first. Well, these kids have their earbuds in and they're walking around half naked, going to the shower, whatever, down the hall. I turned around right away. I said, luckily as a female representative of the management company, cover yourselves. Don't be the first one through the door. let that representative of that community, who's supposed to have been telling these people to be ready for the inspection, but they're not aware. They got their headphones on, they're doing their own thing, they're whatever. So I make sure they open the bedroom doors. I make sure they are the first one through the front door.
Yep. That's your security and all they gotta do is scream. And I think of all the issues I've had on campus housing, where they'll give a notice and only one of the 4 roommates read the notice. The other 3 will never even know because it got thrown away. So I bet in your case, Larry, I bet that's probably a fairly common denominator on a college campus.
Yep. Rob and David too. One thing I'm looking forward to, Rob, out in Orlando on this subject is maybe making some changes in our end of what exactly we're doing inside of multifamily apartments, all that stuff, and curious to know some of the detail or items that others are checking or not checking. So just as an example, I think it's likely that there's commercial property inspections or PCAs that happen on apartments that, for example, might not include the kitchen appliances,
right?
Or a level of detail. So when you go into you're doing a home inspection, obviously the kitchen's very important. And as you go through a microwave, an oven, a range, garbage disposal, on down the list, dishwasher, it can get very detailed, and those items tend to be a nuisance call after we've done a home inspection from clients in terms of callbacks. And so I think that part of this concept of what you're doing when you go into multifamily and how long it takes per unit has much to do with what is the scope of work and what are you checking and not checking. So one of the things that I've been trying to break my inspectors of in a multi-inspector firm with commercial is really getting them to put on a different hat when they go in to do these and not treat each unit in a large apartment complex as a full-blown home inspection.
Yeah.
So if we were streamlining, say, the kitchen with all these various appliances and all the things we do on a home inspection, I could see that shaving some time. But for now, we do tend to go into these and it seems like we're still like 90% doing what we would do on a home inspection. So I'm curious, David or Rob, and what we've referenced already, were you guys doing 100% of the kitchen appliances? Or
So it's good question, Jamie. It's very much expectational to the client. Okay. Yeah, and I don't want to sound like this, there's a PC way to say what I'm going to say. I could be in an inner city property, and that particular client slash, we'll call him landlord, barely maintains anything. I mean, their idea of a handle on the shower could be a pair of vice grips, and they're quite satisfied with renting that space to their tenants. And so in that case, I'm looking for hots are hot, colds are cold, and what's wet doesn't leak on the floor, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then you go to a luxury apartment, and that landlord is going to have a lot more caring and a lot more maintenance driven things. Like they'll actually change furnace filters on a quarterly basis.
Yeah.
Versus not having a filter at all. And so you really got to set that stage with your client going, what are your expectations? What are you going to do? What's your level of maintenance? Because some of them just cash checks. And nowadays, if you're in the upscale apartments, because right now with the difficulty it is to get mortgages and to have enough money, it's still cheaper to rent than it is to own. So then you've got to tailor your scope
Yeah.
very succinctly, and Jamie, I know, when you start looking at your team, there are some of your inspectors, you ask them to tailor their scope, their heads explode, and they'll start breaking out in hives, where there's others that have that flexibility to be able to move with the punches. So I'm going to try to address a little of that in my 2 hours in setting that stage next week. And then I know for a fact that I'll produce that session as an online course later on too, for all those that might not be there. Julian, you have your hand up, buddy.
Yes, I can add to that. Over the years of doing multi-inspection units and have not, I've kind of built out a little system that I've used over the years. Anytime I approach a multi-unit inspection, I always try to set the standard or try to set the flow for my agent by communicating to him what I expect at the property. Because sometimes, a lot of times the agents are not too familiar with working with a multi-unit, and they're maybe haven't done one in a long time. So I try to have a very methodical process to help them through the process, to help me in the process. And it usually makes me look like the winner coming out to help them and educate them on how this works. I have a process where for each property that I endow, I will use a checklist system for unit A-1 personal property, unit B-2 personal property. And I have a checkoff list where it indicates stove, microwave, refrigerator, and etc. And as I enter each unit, I do run a checklist because the process of taking photos in each unit is very key to writing up the report and being detailed and being able to acknowledge which those items you found and what was represented in that property. And I've always found to, with limited disclosure to the tenant, usually I find a tenant to be a very good resource of information where I'll ask them, I'll have a little checklist. Is everything working for you in the property? Do your windows close? Do your outlets work? Etc. And without disclosing and it being too elaborate, I'll have a little questionnaire. Is the stove personal property? Is it yours? Is the refrigerator yours? And so making a note of all that in the report throughout the property, it's very key for the purchaser, because then they want to know, well, what's working, what's not working, what am I investing in for the property? And we got 5 stoves that don't work, or those stoves are not up to current with anti-trip devices, or they're just not working. So I think, being very methodical on that process is very key to getting as much out of the inspection, and then you kind of sort it out at the end. And usually I'll have a whiteboard where I'll write out the whole property. I've dealt with multi-buildings, triple layer unit buildings, and I have to sometimes put this out on a whiteboard just so I can have a good visual and seeing what I've crossed, what I've come across, what I've done, and then compiling the report and then getting the photos all compiled in separate folders and being methodical about it. It is a lot of time consuming, but I've noticed if I have that system that I'm working with, it makes the process so much easier. And when there's a question coming from the agent or from the buyer, I can always refer back to those the folder where I have the template, where I have all the questionnaires, and I'm able to really answer those questions for them and be that person to help them. And they've always come back to me and say, we like the way you do the reports. You're so very thorough. We really appreciate that. And I charge more for it. If they want a full detailed inspection, I'm going to charge for it because it's my time. And
Exactly.
I want to be able to provide that service for them. Now, I usually do is I'll ask them, I need at least 2 or 3 days on site. Usually I never go back the second day, sometimes, thank God, but it's a lot. But I always try to give myself that cushion, because some things do go missing, or if you're doing a sewer scan on the property and you have to check multiple ports to get back into other units just to get the record done, then that second day always helps me out, where I will set that standard for the sellers and say, I need at least 2 days with so many hours on site, so that way we can ensure a full report. And it's always worked every time. So just some added information over the years that has really worked for me, just to being very detailed and being able to cover all my report writing.
Thank you, Julian. I think that's perfect. I got a question I'd love to ask, and if you can answer, I think that would be great. What number is your expectation for the number of units you can complete in a day? In other words, I'll tell you, for me, when I'm doing an inspector deploy, my expectation is any inspector that works for me can do 30 units per day. So if I've got a 60 unit building, it's going to be a 2-day project, or 1 day, 2 inspectors. Does anybody have a number that they're comfortable sharing that includes, and that includes report writing as well? This is how many units you can inspect in a day and produce a report.
I think we're close to that number, but we also try, since we have multiple inspectors we can use, to make sure that they're consistently writing the same fields. So if someone's going to do the interior of the apartment, they're going to do all the interiors of the apartment. They're going to do all the kitchens. They're going to do all the bathrooms. That way you don't have a change in language as you read the report. And that way you can use other inspectors to do things like the roof or the mechanicals. So you get that constancy of narrative there, that a little bit more consistent there. But 30 units is about where we're at per inspector.
Perfect.
Same here, about 30 units. I'll time myself out 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes in each unit max. Just get in, get out, and get what you need done.
Steve?
For us, it really all depends on, I mean, we're talking multifamily, obviously here, that number would be about the same for us. But on the commercial side, we just recently did a 5-unit plaza, about 40,000 square feet, and a 63,000 square foot factory. That's a big open bay. It was vacant for the past 4 years. We got that done in a couple hours,
Right.
and that was including a dozen RTUs. But the 5-unit we had done in 4.5 hours, and that included a lunch. So, we had 3 inspectors on site for that job. But the next day we also provided, using our consulting team of partners, we provided, 14 total RTU package unit estimates and a bid for the entire 92,000 square foot asphalt parking lot. So that's it all depends, but we price our inspections for commercial based on a tier system, and multifamily is among the hardest, in my opinion, to inspect. So we do tier 1, 2, and 3. That's tier 3, our highest tier. So that's our highest price point as well. But yeah, I mean, just for a sheer number, Rob, I'd say 30 would probably be about a max for us per inspector as well.
Sure. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking it all through. I guess to some of that, you'd have to. I think someone just put in the text chat. I think we're talking about separating the rest of the inspection, the exterior of the roof, the parking lot, all of that stuff. If we're talking about just the units, I'd probably be at half of that.
So you'd be around 15 a day.
Yeah, per
Right.
guy. Like, if we just went to a 30-plex, 2 guys inside for the day. But again, remember that I'm talking about when we walk away from that
Yeah.
report as we're driving away is outside of proofreading and tuning it up a little bit. It's mostly written, all the photos are in and all that stuff. So
Sure. And I guess, because when I was running my team, most of the 30, 60, 90 unit apartment buildings we're inspecting are not in great neighborhoods. And so my goal always has been for my team to drive in, drive out, and be as fast as possible. And so I had no expectations, zero, that they'd even open up their software, because I would rather have them sitting at their desk with a cup of coffee, and be at their desk for 4 hours writing a report, because they were only on site for 4 hours doing all those units. So that was more of a safe and secure method than it was the get in and be done on site method. But it really depends on, again, clients, location. I think my question was probably poorly stated, because I didn't give enough context to where you're doing them and who you're doing them for.
well, we could write a book on some of those situations we've been put in. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, but Rob, this is really important, because I've been, as the manager running all this stuff, realizing that for some of the larger apartments that we've done, I've been a little unhappy with our say performance on number of units per inspector and how long it's taking and how many guys I have to send.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've been wanting to increase that number, make it better for profitability reasons. And so I like I said, I'm looking to make some adjustments to what exactly our scope of work is on doing these interiors of apartments
Yeah.
versus if our client is just buying a condominium 1 unit and it's a home inspection, these are two different things.
Yep.
So,
Yep. I'm really enjoying what Steve Hill said about tiers, because you could almost, now that I'm deep diving and I'm old and gray and fat, now I'm deep diving into the land of multifamily, that you could almost tier your multifamily projects based on expectations and type of multifamily inspection. Even in that category, and you don't want to say it in good, better, best, but there's got to be even a dual output of this is a Section 8 type apartment building, and this is a luxury. And maybe it's called luxury and standard. I don't know, but now I've got to go rewrite my presentation.
oh, you get into a whole rabbit hole with this, guys. You even have summary style versus cumulative style and what the client wants. And I think that came up on one of the last calls where you get it all written up and you got it summary style. And like, actually, I need a separate breakdown for each unit and have it all independent of each. Like, oh my. So yeah, it's a whole rabbit hole.
Yep.
Well, that's why I made a comment in the block there that you got to know what those details and what they want ahead of time. Otherwise, you can spend a lot of time after the fact. But also, I just did an apartment complex where all they wanted was, okay, tell me about the HVAC, electrical, the electrical panels, that kind of the big stuff. Comes back later. Well, what about the washers and dryers in the units? Wasn't part of the scope. Sorry.
Yeah.
If you want me to come back, I'll do it. But it's one of those things where Julian's checklist would really help out. If they say up front, do you want the detail on all the appliances? I'll get that for you. I'll get pictures, but know that up front and know that you're going to charge a lot more for that. Like you said, maybe put it in tiers or however you want to put it, but that's got to be explicit up front.
I agree 100%. We're just past the 8 o'clock hour. I want to be very respectful of all of the time zones that we have across the country, and everybody has work to do. I'm looking forward to seeing those that I'll see next week. I get into town on Saturday. I know a few others are as well. Otherwise, I know a few are coming on Sunday. Reach out, talk.
We'll be drinking through Epcot Saturday.
There you go. There you go. I'll be over at Disney Springs, not paying $200 for a cover charge.
But I'm going all over the world. I'm bringing CCPIA to the world, Rob.
There you go. Take some photos, brand it up.
We're gonna make a story. I'm gonna hit every country, and I'm gonna do a story on my storyboard about the construction of the buildings and stuff. So be on the lookout.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
If not, remember that we're looking for some really interesting stories and some really, some great experience. And so feel free to give me a call later or email me your story. With that, be safe and follow the CommStop out there. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week.
See everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.